No, for some strange on what the actual audio levels are like. Tell me whether I need to turn them up a touch or turn them down, and whether it's clear. I'm hoping you can hear me now. I take it you can hear me now. 50 pence for the meter. I like it. No one likes us. Is Motive having a minute's silence, Lawfight? Yeah, well, for some reason the audio cut out completely, and I'm hoping at the moment. Let me put this on there. Can you hear me? How's that? And if I get lots and lots and lots of people saying no, turn it up. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Can you hear me clearly now? Okay, I've just turned it up. Good evening, Florida Kev. Bossman Davey, I've turned it up. Can you hear that alright? Tell me if it's a bit too loud for you. Alright, I've seen that. We're going to be having this conversation. Give me a thumbs up or whatever you need to say, yeah, yes, it's good. Yeah, you can hear me. Everything cool? That's what I like to hear. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play and this is not live on Facebook yet, I'm just doing it from the iPad. This is for a test for all of us, so I know I can play with things, but I'm actually going to put this on and tell me what the levels are like. So we are now going to play a Citizen Steve song. Don't forget, let me know if you can hear this okay and whether you want it up slightly louder. Well, people, what did you think of that? Stevie, my man, that was a fantastic song, and I absolutely loved that one. On tour with the MOD, and he has actually been out there and had a crack. Paratrooper, good man, and on side, English, full on, which is what I like to see. So tonight, the main purpose of what I'm going to be doing, hopefully on a Tuesday night, if you're all have approval on that, is we're going to talk about Brexit, but we are not going to talk about the negatives that come from the BBC and the mainstream media and everyone else on their gravy train. What we're going to be talking about are the positives about England, Scotland, Wales and Ireland. And I say Ireland as a whole, Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, whatever you want to call Ireland, we're all part of the British Isles, whether we like it or not. And Ireland is part of the British Isles. It's not called the Irish Isles, it's called the British Isles. So I'm going to start with talking about some of the main major positives, and it's not going to be the ones that are all talking about now. They're talking about things at the moment that, you know, in my view, let me just turn this up a little touch. Hopefully you can hear that up now. I could get closer to the microphone. I've got it away from me a little bit at the moment. Can you hear that okay? Give me a shout if it's perfect, because this is just normal talking. Harold, I completely agree. And we are the greatest islands in the world. And that's part of the problem. And I'm not going to describe it as a problem. I'm going to be talking about all of the time. We now need people like us that are looking at Brexit for what it really is, right? And it's given us back our future. It's given the country back its destiny. It's given our children and our grandchildren back what they took from us. And we know that they took it. So again, I don't want to keep going over the negatives about how they did and what most of us understand what they did and why they did it. So what I'm going to be trying to say here, hopefully every Tuesday night, is I'm going to come up with various people. Tonight is a test, and it's going to go out for 2 hours. I will be talking. I'll be honest with you, I have sort of racked my brains today. How can you talk for 2 hours? And then I spoke to my ex-wife, and she said, you've got no problem talking for 2 hours. So I thought, it's all right, I'll crack on there then. So the answer really is we need to look at our past and see why we did so well in the past. And one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is our tax system. I've done it on numerous occasions, and to be fair, our tax system, what we used to have, it has been deployed fully in Hong Kong, which most of you know. Now, I had a discussion on RT with some superior lefty, I was told after, didn't know he was, member of God knows how many, probably a Fabian, how many other think tanks and economics. And he said, tell me one good thing about leaving the EU. I said, well, we can control our tax system. He said, you already can. We already set our corporate rates. We already set our income tax. I said, oh, right. So we control our tax system. He said, yeah. I said, all right. I said, so can we stop VAT tomorrow? He went, well, we can adjust it. I said, that's not the question. Can we stop VAT tomorrow? Yes or no? It's a simple question. And he was completely stumped, because the answer is no, you can't. The only reason we've got VAT is because we're in the European Union, and nobody really wanted that as a tax. Now, I do honestly understand that there are other issues and broader issues. The whole globe, and this is about being positive, the whole global economy is about to tank. And when I say tank, it will be the worst disaster that's ever struck financially this planet. Now, you might be saying to me, Graham, turn it in. How are you being positive? Well, I'll tell you why. Because we're going to survive it, one, because we will have complete control over our own currency. We will soon, because we're going to keep pushing for it, have control over our monetary system. The people will have control of it. There are ways in which we can completely remove it from the central banking system, and it is what we should be doing. And thank goodness we are nothing to do with the euro. Technically, we're nothing to do with the dollar. Technically, we have a complete currency which, although is still controlled by the central banks, we are in the best position now that we've actually left the European Union to deal with the turmoil that is coming. So when it comes, you'll get every man and his dog blaming Brexit. Let me tell you something. Brexit is what's going to save us, not what's going to take us down with the rest of them. And this is the other thing that's going to save us. Voting in independent politicians that understand the economy, that understand how the countries work and how this country works, that puts everything back. Now, people keep saying to me, or have said to me in the past, you can't turn the clock back. There are occasions when you do want to turn the clock back. And what I'm trying to say to you is this. I'm hoping everyone can still hear me all right. Can you hear me all right? Give me some ones if you can hear me, and the sound is coming through okay. Well, can always blame Trump too, yeah, and that is definitely going to happen, my friend. They are. Right, thank you very much. So I'm getting plenty of ones coming through, so people can obviously hear me. So let's talk about the way it used to be. I'm going to tell you what part of the problem is, and I'm going to tell you how we can go back, but in a positive way, not in a negative way. So the first thing I'll say to you is in the, let me just think about 19th century, so the 1800s was probably the best time in the history of England, and certainly Wales, Scotland and Ireland. Bearing in mind that Ireland, Northern Ireland, didn't really kick in to be part of us. I think it was about 100 years ago that particular problem occurred. But the major, and bearing in mind that Ireland used to also have the Irish pound, and then they changed it to the punt. So our economies were all linked anyway. We was almost we were a mini European Union of sorts. We all spoke the same language and shared a currency, but there was a major difference. What we had that was different to the European Union was we had something called the Commonwealth, where each part of the Commonwealth is a complete independent country. They have a complete independent monetary system. They have a complete, barring the fact obviously that they're all tied into the central banks, which is what we're going to change. So when you look at this and you look back over the time, you've got to start to realise what went on. So again, part of the problem was in 1911 when we started paying, when they voted to receive salaries, and it started off as £400 a year. Not a bad salary in 1911. The salaries started to seriously increase under Tony Blair. I mean, now they're on 3 times, and that's without expenses. So when you've got some MPs claiming 200 grand a year, 250 grand a year, putting new roofs and God knows what else on their duck outhouses, and all sorts of things like that, looking after their ponds, paying for their flipping of properties and all sorts of things. We have now got the chance to take that back. Now, the part of the problem was that by introducing salaries in the way that we did, the reason why they originally did it was because normal working men, and at that time women didn't have to vote, working men couldn't become MPs because they had to earn a living. So they introduced salaries. Obviously, the debates at the time were massive, and completely geared, and I'll tell you something, they had vision. They were very, very clever people. They could certainly see the bigger picture, because in them debates in 1911, what they was worried about was creating a political class that was detached from the public. Now, what you've seen now, coupled with that, is the way that the universities and everything else has been geared in and been corrupted, if you like, by I know where the corruption's come from and where it seeped in from, which is 100% the Fabian Society that were created in 1884, that unfortunately were British, and they've spread. So, like I said before, it's a political cancer. One of the things I was going to say to you about this is, again, it's about positives. So we can start to look at the system, and what we're looking at now, if you look at England in particular, we used to have what was known as a resilient economy, and the reason why we had a resilient economy was because we was known as the nation of shopkeepers. Now, when you've got a nation of shopkeepers and not, I repeat, not supermarkets, and you've got distribution centres, you've got delivery drivers, you've got all these people doing what they've got to do, that is a fantastic way of creating employment, etc. Now, when we joined the European Union, I can tell you now for a fact, they had to, bearing in mind this was only 20 years after the Second World War finished, they had to send dignitaries to Canada and the Commonwealth countries and apologise to them because we had immediately put 11% tariffs, this was 43 years ago, 11% tariffs on their goods coming into the United Kingdom. Now, these people had fought for us, they'd fought alongside us, they'd fought for us because they were Commonwealth countries. So we in effect slapped them in the face by doing that, and it was a complete injustice not only to the Canadians but to the Australians, who lost many people, India, etc., everywhere that was part of the Commonwealth. So what we've got to look at now is what has happened since then. Well, there are a number of things that I've looked at with the economy. And part of that, and if there's anyone out there that's working, understands this, the corporations have taken over and taken over and taken over, and they've took so much away. Let me just have a quick check and see what someone is saying to me. Okay, well, I don't know why that's only just come up. I'm obviously connected. So what's happened is the corporations have taken over. Now, what we're going to do after Brexit is we're going to remove what is described as globalisation. Now, globalisation is basically the corporates have taken more and more control. You can't do anything now. It's almost like going back to, again, this sounds a strange thing to say, but imagine if you was a farm worker in the 1800s. If you worked on a farm, you had a cottage, you lived in a cottage, yeah, thank you, Harold. So what you've got to understand is, if you lived in a cottage or a factory and there was premises there, and they used to build workers' cottages everywhere. If you lost your job, you lost your house. Now, I'm asking you a simple question, right? If you work for a corporation, what do you lose when you lose your job? You lose your company car, because in the old days, we all used to go and buy our own cars, whether they were second hand, where most people could afford to go and buy a car. Even if it was a cheap car, you could go and buy one off a main dealer. Most of the main dealers were actually selling to private individuals. So what you've got to understand is, if you lose your job today, what's the difference between now and in the 1800s, when you was a farm worker living in a farm cottage? You lost everything. So as soon as you lose your job as a when you work for a corporation, what do you lose? You lose your car, you lose all your benefits, you lose your healthcare, although we've obviously got the National Health Service, but you also lose your mortgage. Because if you can't get another job, that's it. Government now has stopped paying. If you changed your mortgage within, I think it's 6 months of becoming unemployed, they won't pay it at all. They will only pay certain parts of your interest. They won't pay any capital, etc. So depending on what you're tied into, they've done the thing. So what you've got to understand here is there isn't a lot of difference. And what the corporations have done is the more that they pick up, and I'm going to explain something about British Telecom. British Telecom have exported a lot of telecommunications jobs to India, to the Philippines, etc. Those jobs would have been here. We've given corporations far too much control. And what we've got to do is start going back to our roots. Now, our roots, I'm going to give you a description of this, and I'm hoping that everybody who's listening understands exactly what I say, right? When I was 15 years old, I went out and got a job. I worked on a building site. I was a hod carrier for a while, was a labourer for a while, and I'd done all different things. And then when I'd come away from that, I thought, so I want to go knocking on doors. So I went knocking on doors with a ladder, and I built up a window cleaning round, right? And even at the age of 16, I was earning £150 a week, which weren't too sad then, considering that a pint was 32 pence. Long time ago, I know. But again, that's getting back into the tax system, and we'll discuss that. But what I'm trying to say to you is, people were more resilient. They was allowed to be resilient. They was allowed to keep more of the money they was earning. And that then enabled them to do more. So let's talk about something that's positive. For example, I would have never have gone out and bought all this equipment and decided, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to start being positive about Brexit. We're going to motivate people to think the right way. Now, I'm already preaching to the converted, but what I'm trying to say to people is all you got to do is look around you. So if anyone 3-4 weeks ago walked into this flat and said, what, you're going to run a radio station from your front room? Yeah, that's what the English do. What do I do? And who taught me how to do that? Yeah? A plasterer? A carpenter? Multi-skilled, multi-trade. Who said to me, this is how you do it? Blah, blah, blah. The boss man. So when we start communicating with each other and we have a common cause, we can all pick each other up and literally start going forward. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're not interested in listening to all this negative rubbish coming out of that box in the corner. I'm still telling you, I haven't switched that on for 4 or 5 days now. The only time I'll switch it on is when RT start ringing me. And by the way, I did speak to them. They had a few problems in Moscow, but nothing to do with me, which is quite funny, and nothing to do with you, boss man, either. So let's talk about what it is that the English have always done, right? So again, I'm going to go back and look at all the inventions that we've put out to the world, and the biggest one that's come up at the moment is graphene. Graphene is an absolutely world-changing invention, right? It is 100 times stronger than steel, and it's lighter than air. Work that one out, right? It is conductive. It does everything it says on the tin. It was developed in Manchester University. Guess who by? 2 Russians living here. So we haven't got a problem with immigration. Not at all. Look at some of the best inventions in the world come from Russia. Why? Because they've got the same mindset as us. They're free thinkers, right? The only time they was crushed was when the communists moved in there and the Soviet Union. Look at them now. I know there's corruption. I know that there's a lot of things that go on. But at the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is move forward and change things. So Brexit for me is a massive, and I'm going to try and, by the way, I'm going to get back to that, but I'm going to try and get some top business people calling in. I think it's going to be a massive positive for them, and I'll tell you for why. Because when I speak to them and say, I need you to come on the show, discussion about Brexit, and I know they're going to think, oh, here we go, right? And I'm going to say, by the way, this is a different type of show. I'm only interested in the positives, yeah? All of the balance, as these people describe it, is already on that box in the corner where they have been negative, 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 negative. So what we're going to do, we're going to rebalance it with our own people. That's the only way we can do it. So it should be an absolute cracker. Okay, so let's get back to the English and why we're so positive. We have invented so many absolute class systems. Absolutely, I mean, our industries were amongst the best in the world. They were hijacked at one point. There's different bits and pieces that I can explain over the centuries that have changed and been hijacked by the wrong people. And we can... what does that say? So I'm reading some of the comments as I'm talking to you. So what we're going to do, we've already done it in the past, and we're going to do the same thing, except I want people to also understand why corporations and corporatism is such a bad thing for England, because it goes against everything that we've always done. It goes against the liberties and freedom of the people. When you give the power back to the people and individual liberties and your rights to earn a pound note and keep that money, you start to see competition with people. You'll start to see, especially when we attack the tax system, you'll start to see the pubs start opening again. When the pubs start opening again and we knock this smoking ban on the head, we'll go back to communicating. And that's what they don't want. So there's plenty of positives that we will do, and we won't tolerate, will not tolerate any European Union rules that says you can't smoke in a pub, right? When I went out to Italy, I was actually in a data centre, and the guys, it was really funny. They had all the white suits on, they had dust hats on, dust things over their feet and everything, and then they're sitting up with their feet up, reading the paper in a data centre, smoking a fag, and then eating a roll. And I'm thinking, you just couldn't do this in England because the English follow the rules, whatever the rules are. But we've been used to doing it under common law, which means we don't hurt each other, we don't defraud each other, we don't cause anyone any pain or injury, and that's the way we've always lived, unless you cause a problem with us. And that's what they've obviously done over the years. So getting back to corporations, it is extremely, if you look at our old economy from England and the point of view of the English, where we was a nation of shopkeepers, our food supply system was completely resilient in many ways, from food distribution centres, from, I remember the big fruit and veg distributors. We used to have one up the road from us. It had 18, 20 lorries in there, packed out with fruit, and then it had delivered to all the grocers, etc. And it was giving everyone a living all the way along. Yeah. The way they combated that and took that off us, they took that off us more or less at a stroke, with 11% increases on tariffs. So anything that we started to import was automatically more expensive. So the cost of living in this country rose by 11% immediately, because it was an artificial market that the European Union have created. And it's unfair to the rest of the people outside of that. Now, all the corporations want to do is create that on a bigger level, which is what was TTIP, etc., which now, again, Trump gets it, is going to remove all of that. Take all of that, and we're going to start taking the control back from the globalists and the corporations. That's why England is going to be such a positive thing. Because at the end of the day, we'll start creating what we used to have. Then the kids in this country are going to start looking and thinking, something, everybody's laughing. Why? Everyone's got power. Look at the power grids, right? Let me tell you something else. And I'm hoping that there's people who've probably heard this. I'm not sure. We seem to go through these weird cycles. Now, I'm going to tell you two things. One is, I obviously know quite a bit about telecommunications and computer systems, but the networking side and oddly enough, the global networking side. The difference is, what we used to have was computers that were standalone. Then we connected them to networks. And then you had individual networks that was all connected together. And then we ended up connecting, obviously, to the internet. But then they went through a cycle, and then they built data centers, and they put all the computers in there, and then they created this distribution network of computing, and then they come up with the cloud, right, where all of the actual processes and all of the software sits in the cloud, and you just access it from a client point of view, so your computer to the server, which is in the cloud. Now let me just understand. Let me try and explain to you why that's such a bad model. Because they soon realised that the people who then own the cloud, own everything. They've got complete control. It's a monopoly, whether you like it or not, right? So then, what you've got to look at is when they originally invented electricity, they didn't have a grid system in this country. And what a lot of people don't realise is it's almost going full circle again. And this is the clever part. They've realised that the grid system, in this country, if you've got a grid system, how easy is it to knock it out? Well, simple. You blow up the power stations. If there's ever a war, they'd issue power stations and they'd hit the nuclear facilities, right? Bomb, your power's gone. You've got no power in your country. What we used to do, and this is absolute fact, is we turned the windmills that we used to have scattered all over this country, and instead of them turning the big stones to grind corn and flour, they turned them windmills into generators and was generating power, and then you used to have the electric motors do all the work. They also had that with water wheels. So originally in the mills, for example, that the mills had to be close to rivers. And the river flow would turn the wheel, create the power to drive the machines, and then what they did was when they bought in electric machines, they converted the water mill. It's still run by water, and turning it. What they done was they created that, and they converted again the raw energy from the flowing water into electricity with the generators that were attached to the water wheels. They also done that. I don't know if people realise that we are one of the biggest in the world manufacturers of water turbines. So when you the water turbines that they manufacture up north are in massive dams, and as the water flows through, obviously it spins, goes through. All of these things, we had lots of businesses that were completely non-reliant on grids. So in effect, nature drove their business, and they in effect got free electricity until somebody said, here's a bigger picture here. What we want to do is take that power away from them. We'll give it to them cheaper. They ain't got to maintain this stuff. They ain't got to do this, blah, 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 blah. Pay us a small fee. Now, when them technologies then started to go away and we all got accepted onto a grid system, what happens? They start to put the price up. They capture the market. That's exactly what's happened with all of these supermarkets. Look at the supermarkets. People don't realise this. Tesco's, for example, do you know who that was originally started by? A criminal. He was a Jewish criminal that started what was known back in the day as a long firm, which is a credit fraud. So what he done was he created these shops. He was bringing all the gear in. He was about to knock them, and because he was selling some of the stuff, or selling most of the stuff, and he was stacking high and selling cheap, just because he was going to create enough stock, to sell everything and then knock the people that have given him the stock. He was going to knock them, so he was going to defraud them. It was called a long firm fraud. So he was an expert in that, but then he started to earn so much money, he created it as a proper business, and then he come out with something else, which was called what? Green Shield stamps. Now, During 1914, we had something called the Bradbury Pound, which was printed one-sided on the paper, and the paper was stamp paper because they didn't have the proper paper, so they just printed one side, and that was what we used as a currency. Now, if you could walk into Tesco's 40 years ago with a book of Green Shield stamps and exchange it with someone for 10 cigarettes, which you could, yeah, what he actually created was a form of currency. The same as if you go into prison, if something's valuable, it used to be Mars bars, then it was phone cards. Now it's unfortunately drugs, right? But and mobile phones, if you can get them up far enough. Ooh, maybe my eyes water thinking about that one. But so on that type, so what I'm trying to say to people is you've got to look at what's going on here. They have absolutely destroyed this country, and we've got to take it back. I am not suggesting. If you look at the amount of money that is siphoned off, one, to other countries, two, into tax havens, and I believe in a low tax system, but if everybody has got an opportunity to participate in the economy, yeah. So my view of England should be how it used to be, and believe it or not, we haven't always. I take it everyone listening has heard of something called GDP. Well, gross domestic product is, they are measuring how much your country produces, and that basically tells you how well you're performing as a country. That is completely wrong, and it hasn't always been the way. Again, it was a Fabian that come out with that one, right? So what you need to do is change back the system to what it used to be, which was quality of life. I'll just see a comment, about the phone, by the way. So what I'm saying is we need to go back to the measure should be quality of life. That means when you look at old people at the moment, they've got a situation where they can't heat or eat, right? Or they do one or the other. In Holland, for example, the Dutch, you're not allowed to buy the gas resources from Holland belong to the people. And in Holland, if you become unemployed, they work out what your heating costs are and what your hot water costs are, and they give you that, right? They work it out, so as you're a family and it should cost you 40 quid a week, which is a reasonable amount of money to heat a 3-bedroom house with 2 kids and a dog and a wife and whatever else, yeah? They work it out and say, right, that's what we're going to give you free. Anything over that, you've got to pay for, which I think is reasonable, right? But that means you haven't got to make the choice of whether you heat your house, and it also means that those peoples and generations that have worked 6 decades, paid into the system, yeah, and have got nothing because all their money's been taken in tax. They've been here 6 decades grafting. Some of them are in their 80s and 90s, got no money, shivering in their front rooms, yeah. And what happens? I'm seeing some funny comments come up here about this farm. Right. So what I'm trying to say to you is there are lots of ways in which this is going to be very positive for us, and we are going to take back control. Once we've done that, you'll start seeing again the true spirit of the English. We have been pushed down, but that's all by design. Trust me. So now what we're going to start seeing is we're going to start seeing the economy rising. There is going to be a massive crash. It's got nothing to do with Brexit. It is going to be probably the biggest one the world has ever seen. But Brexit means we are in a position as a country and as people. But we've got to start thinking about that now, and we've got to start making sure that people are aware there are different ways of dealing with this, and one of the best ways of dealing with it is to get rid of the central banking system. Introduce the Bradbury Pound. There are certain things that we want to do as people that we accept completely, should be, if you like, a basic right. So a basic right, for example, is everybody has the right to drink water. Nobody should be charged for water. Nobody should be charged for sewage, because the sewage that is pumped away and cleaned, etc., is part of what happens when you create cities, when you create towns, etc. And if you haven't planned for that, yeah, that's not that's an issue with our current politicians. That isn't an issue with the people. It's the people that we elected. The problem is all of the people that we elected have turned out to be dumbed down. And the reason why they're dumbed down is because it's the people in the European Union that are making all the decisions. So therefore they don't have to. All they're doing really is taking money for nothing. And that's the element of this, is what we've got to try and change. And we will change it. Trust me, there's things coming up. Like I say, on Friday, hopefully we'll be speaking to Robert Steele. He's got some fantastic ideas, and he did run for the presidency in 2012. There are a number of people having discussions about what, why, how we're going to do things. But the positive is always going to be these things that we can do. Every person. So for me to come now and set up this kit to try and work out how to start, communicating with people and getting these positive messages out. There are so many positives. I honestly think it's strange. You know, when I look at the way we used to be, everybody was happy. And that's what I want to see again. And I want to start seeing our spirit come back. You know, there's lots of us who haven't lost the spirit. We've still got that fighting spirit. But there's so many idiots out there now that honestly honestly think they need to be in, probably not in this country. But you'll get, you probably might even get people that, live out in America or whatever deciding to come home. Hey Kev, because we're doing so well, it might be that you could be tending the greens at Donald Trump's golf courses and earning an absolute good living at it, because Donald Trump would probably say to you, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, you're so good, I'm going to give you 3 times what I would give that man because I know how good you are, right? That's what it's about. It's about paying for quality. When I used to be in sales, and bearing in mind, in telecoms, it was a very competitive business. And some people used to say to me, why do I need to buy your STM1 off you, or your STM4, technical terms, I'll use them just because it's still there. But why do I need to pay you £2,000 a month for one of yours, when he's offering it for 600 quid? I said, well, simple. It's simple. You pay for quality. Yeah, some people buy BMWs, some people buy Rolls Royces. It's what you can afford, but it's also, if you want the best, you pay for it. And that is the system that we're going to create. What they're creating, is a system that is a downward spiral where they're bringing us all onto the same level. Yeah. So instead of us, I'll give you an example of this, and this is probably, if anyone's ever played golf. If you go out and play golf with, say, you go out on a 4-ball, and you continuously, as a person, play with 3 other people that are scratch players, right? You will end up being exceptionally good. I'm not suggesting you'll be a scratch player straight off, but you'll see an immediate improvement in your game. And I know that because it's happened to me, right? If a scratch player was to continuously go out on a 4-ball with people who were non-handicapped, completely useless, his game would go down because there's nothing for him to compete against. There's nothing for him to watch. Yeah, and that's the difference. So what we're going to do is recreate that again in England. Recreate the engineering spirit that we've got. We've got some of the, or had some of the greatest engineers in the world. We still have got them engineers. They're just not allowed to engineer anymore because they've got all these silly regulations coming over from the EU, which incidentally are going to stop. They've got the CDM regs now that cover the building trade, where you've got to have a risk. Someone actually rang me today and said you've got to have a risk assessment to change a toilet seat. I said, you're kidding me, ain't you? He went, no. Because it's in a void, there has to be a risk assessment to change a toilet seat. What a load of crap. I'm trying to look at, I'm talking, and I'm trying to look at some of these messages. I've got my hands up just in case laugh. What does that mean? Safest option, laugh out loud. Now, bearing in mind, I've been going for nearly 40 minutes. I have not gone live on Facebook yet, so I'm hoping there's no one on there having a scream up saying, where are you? I could go live on Facebook, but they're not going to be able to see the rest of it. And what I am going to do now is I'm just going to quickly do another quick test on something, and I'm going to play another one of these Citizen Steves because I actually think it's so funny. Has anyone heard the Market song? So I'm actually going to do this one, the Market song, because I think it's absolutely hilarious. And are you ready?
battle, it did rage. But then the violence, it decreased. Now me and old Abdul met in no man's land, and we held our hands out in peace. Now some might call me a traitor, but some might say it's luck. Cause me and old Abdul and they joined forces, and we're gonna bloody blow Parliament up. Oh, I've been round the market, I've got to tell you what I've seen. I only went round the market to buy myself a pair of jeans. Now me and Abdul were allies, and some say we're insane. We're gonna bloody blow the politicians up sky high, let Bin Laden take the blame. Yeah, they all say we're insane. We're gonna bloody blow Parliament up sky high, and let Bin Laden take the blame.
There you go, my son. What do you think of that? And what we're going to do now is make sure he don't pop back up, because the next one is the Angry Wife song. And the Angry Wife song, well, what can I say? That is one that will aggravate the wives. And I'm going to play something else in about 2 seconds, and you're going to like it. I'm going to play you a song, and I'm trying to work out which one I should play you, really. I think it's this song, and the reason why I like this song is because it says something about the working class, and it says something about us fighting back. So I'm going to play it, and anyone who actually gives a bit quick shout out on there, one of my favourite groups that I grew up with, who is it? And you'll know who it is as soon as you start hearing it, but I'm going to play this one for you. Ready? Here it comes. One of my favourite songs. Everybody. Be divided. Be divided. Well, what did you think of that, my friends? That, now, to me, bearing in mind I grew up with that type of music, and when we was all out as a team of people up the old Kent Road, screaming, shouting, having a laugh. You know, there used to be the odd tear up every now and again, but at the end of the day, everyone used to talk to each other. We all used to be up there having a pint, or often more than a pint. But at the end of the day, right, we went out and had the crack. Now look at the old Kent Road, eh? It's completely taken over by what? Halal shops. Now I'm trying to be positive here. We need to take back control. What I'm saying to you is, do you see our youngsters, like we was, shouting and singing along to a song like that, which was just pure energy, yeah? That's where we come from. That's where we come from as working class people. And we picked everybody up, yeah, and took us with it. And then we started to get the knockdown, the bit by bit from the European Union. I can see all this coming back. That energy that people have got, it's still there. We just have to make sure that we, as motivators, yeah, which is what we all are. Everybody who's listening to this is a motivator. Everybody who talks on this show is a motivator. And the reason why we're here is to motivate. We've switched off from that silly box in the corner and the BBC and the rest of them Muppets, and we're going to take back control, because that's what we're about. We, the English, it's our economy that pays all of those fees. It's our economy that throws all the money over Adrian's wall. With respect, I've got no problem with the Scots whatsoever. I've got a lot of problems with the SNP, yeah? But if you ask most of the Scots, they don't want nothing to do with the SNP, right? We all want to live together, and we all want to be friends, and we will be again once we've got these idiots out of the way. I'm not talking about the SNP. I've got no problems whatsoever with the Scots. I know they wear skirts, but that's just a cultural issue. It's just a cultural issue, you know? They throw these bits of wood about, you know what I mean? Like, how can you toss a cable and think your dog's going to bring that back? Let's have it right. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be a bit of sanity there somewhere. I wish someone would explain to me where that come from. I've really not got a clue. Why would anyone want to toss a tree trunk, basically? Why? Someone's got to tell me what that's about. Alright, okay, I can hear the Scots all screaming. What about you lot dancing around a May flag and a pole and twisting and little jingly bells on your ankles and, yeah, painting your face black? Huh? Being described as racist for doing it? What? May dancers? Really? Anyway, so we have all got these little oddities. I'm trying to think of an oddity for the Welsh. I'm sure there is one somewhere, but I can't think of one at the moment. What is it the Welsh do that's strange? Anyone got any answers for me? Might lead me on to my next subject. And my next subject is going to be, guess what? The positives about Brexit yet again. Slapping their wives. That's not a nice thing to say, is it, Kev? They don't all do that. They slap the monkey more than they do the wives. No, I like the Welsh, honestly. No, I do. No, honestly. Kev, would you stop it? You'd cause another war on our chat room. But at the end of the day, what we are talking about is the situation that we've got here. I mean, you know, the Welsh ain't that different really from Muslims, are they? If you think about it. I mean, in Wales, the men are men and the sheep are frightened. Well, it's no different, you know, in Saudi Arabia. It's no different in Afghanistan. In terms of, the sheep are absolutely petrified. But there you go. Oh, look, we got an apology. I'm saying this is during the English colonization in Scotland when the clans were not allowed to train with weapons. Oh, right. That's going to go too quick. I'm not going to be able to read that. It was during the English colonialism of Scotland when the clans were not allowed to train with weapons. use such things as tossing the caper to train and compete with other clans. Ah, I never knew that. Thank you. There you go. Where did the skirts come from then? I mean kilts. Sorry. Yeah, turn it in. No, I'm not gonna create any English Scottish divisions here, right? But I do actually want to know, where did that come from? And why do they have a sporran when everyone else has got a scrotum? Or is that what it's for, to protect it? I don't really get that either. You'll have to explain that one to me and all. And let me tell you, I've got family that are Scottish, and I've got an actual photo of my brother in a kilt, believe it or not. He actually knew the, what are they called? Frasers. And he actually knew... Do you know, remember years ago there was a big kick-off, there was a massive problem where it was something to do Rangers and Celtic, and one of the goalkeepers, who was the wrong religion, joined the wrong team. Well, he knows that goalkeeper, and he knew that was coming. So it was quite it was a massive thing at the time. It probably still is in a lot of ways. But there you go. So, and bearing in mind, I used to go to Scotland quite a bit for various reasons, mainly buying cars and bringing them back down, flying up to Edinburgh or Glasgow, driving back down with the vehicles and then flogging them down here. Arnold Clark's, massive company up there that had a lot of vans and different bits and pieces. Sorry, I'll just say that comment from the ego. It's called a kilt because I kilt the last... Beep! Who called it a skirt? Love it. Well, what a classic that is, right? And obviously the pipes. I like the pipes, especially on New Year's. I love all that. And that's another thing, isn't it? If you look at the cultures, like, and I'll talk about Sikhs at the moment. I know that Scots, just because you wear a kilt, just because you wear a kilt, it's part of the culture. So it's a particular type of dress, but as far as I'm aware, it's not to do with religion, right? But this is the other side of it, right? And it is quite funny that Sikhs actually walk around with a sword or a large knife as part of their religious upbringing, and it's part of them. And the reason they carry that knife is to protect the weak. They're sworn to protect the weak. I haven't heard of any Sikhs going around cutting people's heads off, right? For any reasons in anywhere really, but certainly not causing any major problems in this country. And again, when the riots was on, do you remember the riots when? And I remember this. It's like a video going through my brain when that Sikh dad, his son was killed and run over in the riots, and his son was literally dead just hours before, and he was pleading for calm. Please don't stop this. Stop the fights. Stop the rioting. We don't want any more deaths. And I just thought the humility of that man and the just pure generosity of his soul to everyone, even though he has just got the biggest loss of his life right before him. And again, look at the Scots. The Scots, wearing their ceremonial gear, which is the kilts and the sporran and everything, which, to be fair, I like the look of that, right? It does actually look quite smart. And then they carry a little knife. But do you ever get any of these, they don't walk down the street and start stabbing people and all sorts of stuff. Do you understand? So it is a culture rather than what's actually, our cultures are different, and the English culture is not one of violence. Again, I've said to people a million times, the word animal husbandry comes from the English. because we were arable farmers. It was, believe it or not, the Scots, the Welsh and the Irish that used to slaughter the animals and farm animals to slaughter. And we used to exchange arable goods for them, and we used to exchange beer for them and all sorts of things. But we generally used animals on our farms to help us, not to slaughter them. Well, let's have a quick look at this and see what some of these things have said. You can't like that one, but yeah, I don't know if anyone could actually read that one. But he says, "I wear my sporran on the inside, not because I'm tight. It's just it makes more fun when I'm getting mugged." Yeah, I'll make you right as he happens. So again, we're talking about the different things, and it's definitely 100% to do with our culture. And I haven't got a problem with the Scottish culture, the Welsh culture, the Irish culture, and obviously everyone else has got a problem with the English culture, which I think is completely natural, is a nice culture, and it always was. And we've been beaten down and beaten down and beaten down, and now it's time for all the motivators to get motivating. I know you've all been doing it, and one of the reasons why I'm on this show now is because you motivated me to do that. Yeah, you all motivated me to do that, every one of you. From the Boss Man, Ego, Florida Kev, Margate Mick, all of you, yeah, Dazza, I haven't left you out. Everybody has motivated each other to carry on and do all this. Do you know what I mean? We all want to motivate, and that's why the station's called Motivate Radio. I think it's, one, a fantastic name, two, it is the essence of free speech, the way it should be, right? So what we're going to do now, well, first of all, there's some absolutely blinding bits of kit on board now. We've got, not only have we got this mixer, which David's obviously got a mixer as well. We've got some recording equipment that is professional recording equipment. We've got lapel mics, this all Rode. We've got Rode kit that goes on top of the camera, which is boom mics. There's so much of it. It's this. So what the intention is, and Davey can jump in on the chat or wherever to say what else we think we should be doing. But after watching a number of people in the US and especially seeing Trump has blown out completely the mainstream media. He's not interested in talking to them. What we've got to do is build up as much as possible our own website, which is going to be crucial, because when they shut us down on YouTube, when they shut us down on YouTube, and when they shut us down on Facebook and all that stuff, we've got to have our own website. We've got to run our own servers. But most importantly, we've got to get out and speak to people. We have to get the conversations going with the people. We have to start bringing that back. There are many, 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 many people that think just like us, that are thinking the things, but they're too frightened to say it. When you start putting these shows together and a panel together where you're only being positive about Brexit, yeah, when people can come there and start feeling relief that there are other people that think just like them. When the news starts to spread and the motivators get motivating, yeah, that's when this really takes off. When all of us go straight out and say, we helped recreate what we used to have. We, the motivators, have given back to our future generations what we had taken away from us. There is no shame in that. We're only going to go up from here, and national, civic nationalists, but not socialism, not communism, not corporatism, all of that, and it's definitely Fabianism, right? That is all going to go. And what we're going to do is take back control. And the reason we have to take back control is because if we allow these people to continue, who is it that's going to go for the slaughter? And it ain't happening again, right? I'll tell you who's going to go for the slaughter, it'll be the working class. Because all these mugs with the money will stand back and let it happen. And what we've got to say is no. Let me tell you something. You've done it once. You've done it twice. You're third time unlucky, boys. Don't keep talking, and girls. Don't keep talking about World War Three. Yeah, that's not it. There is going to be a three, but when the three kicks in, it's you lot that's going, not us. And that is what the message we have to get out. For you people, it was third time unlucky to try and push us down that path. And I think, personally, I think we are winning. There's more and more people I'm speaking to in the street. I mean, I'll give you an example of a phone call I had the other day. This is absolutely genuine, right? I'm talking to someone, I won't say who it is in case he is actually listening. I was talking to someone at work on the phone. I've never met the guy, right? And he rings me up and he asks me what properties there is and he's got to do this and he's got to do that. So let me just light this cigarette. And what he said to me was, he said, I'm sure I've heard your voice before, you know. And I said, have you? He went, yeah. He went to me, have you got anything to do? Do you go on Facebook and do videos and things like that? And I went, yeah. He said, you in the English Democrats? I said, yeah. So this fella, right, never met him or anything. He said, you know something, mate, I'll follow you. I said, do you? And he went, yeah. He said, I'm a Brexiteer, mate. He said, I love your videos. He said, he said, honestly, when I've seen that there's one going and I'm at work, he said, I can't wait to get home and watch it. Because you say what I'm thinking and I can't say it at work. Do you know what I'm saying? So what we're doing, Nigel Farage started that. He started the whole thing with starting to crush the political correctness. We've got to stop it. And we've got to get out there and start speaking to people and they realise, you know, it goes back to that saying, you know, the emperor's got no clothes. Well, once they've got no clothes, they're going to be standing there, the elite, standing there, start naked, yeah, and we're the ones who have said, what are you going to do about it? We're all standing there fully clothed. You're the one standing there with nothing on, and you can all piss off over to St Helier. And like I said, you can tend the grave of Napoleon. If you don't want to top them, just tell them to get on a boat and send them out there and say you can have utopia over there. The only thing we'll do is send them lots of refugees. That's I've just had a read of that one. Very funny. Thank you very much, my son. All right. So Harold, I don't think there's going to be a World War III because I think the people are going to take back control, and the more people like us that are going out there and having that conversation and talking to people and explain what's going on. We don't know everything. But I'm honest. I'm being honest with you. Most of this is down to incompetence, and that the elites and the corporations, through there's a word for it. I think it's called nepotism, where they only employ their friends, family, and the people that they know, rather than the people that are the best people for the job. So at the end of the day, that just breeds a cycle that is or a spiral that only goes one way, and that's down. What we've got to do is take back control, and we are taking back control. And I try and say to people, look, you know, if Davy Russell has been going for 5 or 6 years on a radio station, and all of a sudden we've connected with each other, Stephen Lang, we've connected with each other. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's connecting now, and we don't need that broadcast media, but we need to take that back. And when we do take it back, they are all going to be gone. We'll take their pensions, we'll take all of it, and so I'll tell you what, go and start digging the roads up for the next 10 years, like you've made us do, yeah? We'll take over the broadcasting, we'll take over all the actual talk shows, you go and get on with it, but This is the deal. You do 10 years hard labour and we'll let you back into our society. That's the way it's going to work, right? Don't have to top them. So go and work for a living. See how you like it. But the difference is we'll be creating the jobs. They won't be creating the jobs. That's my little rant over. It's not supposed to be the rant show tonight. That's Friday. Friday we got... Oh, yeah. Don't forget, we've got Robert Steele coming Friday. Should have some cracking stuff coming on then. Right, as he cracks another one, here you go. Then when we started back in Brexit, did they call themselves? Oh, very funny. Right. I think at some stage I'm going to ring my brother up on one of these Tuesday nights because he's a bit of a comedian, and he'll tell a few jokes and you'll be absolutely. I mean it's about lightening things up as well. So I've given quite a few of my opinions on what's going on, but at the end of the day, I promise you faithfully, I feel as long as we can get absolute control, and I think I definitely know that the special forces are involved now in the background and are kicking in, because part of what's causing the problem globally is that these intelligence services have been using paedophilia to get hold of these people, and then they've got control of them. Now, bearing in mind that the special forces have been trained in subverting democracies and doing all these different things, they're now turning their skills, because of what's happening with the kids,